folks, it's Amy from Colorado Mountain Living, and we are still working on the stairs, right? So, I thought we'd be stacking everything up and like putting all the treads together in the next video, but actually there's still a few more steps, and one of them was working on the base. So I think in the last video, if you caught it the last few minutes, Bryan shows how he sort of laminates together the boards to make the big block for the base. But in this video, I wanted to show you how he went ahead and basically made it to the shape that he wanted with the angle and the roundness. And he did all of this without a lathe. In fact, what it's sitting on here, I'm going to show you in this video, another tool that Bryan has custom designed out of scraps from around the house to be able to make a nice wood-turned laminated wood base for the staircase. So I hope you really enjoyed this video because it's kind of neat. I know a lot of you guys appreciate Bryan's ingenuity and his out-of-the-box thinking for coming up with solutions to problems without having to buy every single tool in Harbor Freight catalog. So one other piece of news is that the drill press that we borrowed isn't big enough to accommodate the width of the stair treads and the spacers. It's the distance between the bit and the machinery itself. It's only like a few inches and we need like 5 inches. So we can't quite get it centered. So still looking for a drill press at this point. Yeah, anyway, so there's enough to kind of share about making this tool. So I thought I'd make it just a special video about this wood block base. So hope you guys enjoy. And a little bit of bonus footage at the end because we did have some visitors today. We haven't seen them in a long time, so more wildlife. Now that the snow's melting, we finally getting some grass coming up, and you know who was first in our yard to come and chow down on the grass? We've got a family of moose, so don't miss that at the end of the video, guys. Thanks. So what do you have to do to work on your base?
Go really low, like...
No. Not that kind of base. No. Keep trying.
Screwed right there. As the template for the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll get right to there, and then I'll swing it around, get the other side. And then I need to use my router, wing digger. Put this back in there. I'll measure 10 inches from center. 10 inches from the edge of the blade. And then screw that in there like that, and that'll be my pivot to make my circle. Then, so that'll be, the top will be about 1 inch, the bottom will be about 1 inch, and then I'm going to taper it. So it'll be about 1 inch. And then this will be about 1 inch. That.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll put a band around there and a band around there.
Oh, cool.
The tricky part would be cutting that in a circle. So what I will probably do is build a jig that fixes my router in place like that. And then have this thing so it can spin. And then I'll just turn it slowly and then just be able to move the jig up and down.
Oh, okay.
And the router up and down.
Yeah. Cool.
In this section, I'm using the template for the stair treads to route the same diameter on the top of the space, or the top of the base. And interestingly, I went a little too far past the actual radius, so I had to kind of finagle it. It's not quite round, but no one's ever going to notice. And it packs that sawdust right in to that groove, so I have to really dig it out of there. All right, now I flipped over the base so I can route the bottom. It's about 20 inches in diameter here. And I actually used my part of the jig from my dovetail joints on the timber frame as my protractor to make the circle. So I just measured out 10 inch, actually about 9 3/4 inches from the edge of the rabbiting bit, and then just started cutting away. And this makes a nice perfect circle. Now that I'm done with the routing the circle here on the base, I'm then going to just start taking away the meat of the scrap wood.
So you're using a longer bit. You got the 4-inch bit on there, or the 3-inch one? That orange bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so just going down. I actually went down 1.25 inches, I believe, on that radius there. So, and there I just chiseling out the meat of the scrap so I can get down there.
Okay.
Here I pulled out the Prezi beam cutter. I sharpened up the chain a little bit, and then just cutting off the corners, because eventually I'm going to use the router again to start shaping the conical feature of the base, and I don't want to have to be cutting all this wood with the router.
You could do it with a reciprocal saw.
Yeah, I could do it with a reciprocal saw, yeah.
It's like the video is how to do this without a router, but you might need a Prezi beam cutter.
Yeah. Exactly.
You don't need one. Reciprocal saw might take off this extra as well.
Yeah, it would, yeah. For sure.
Okay, now looks like you got another saw.
Yeah, so here I put my my scroll, what do you call it, the circular saw on a 45-degree angle, and just started chipping away, trying to get chunks of it off. Again, I don't want to be routing through with a routing bit through 3 inches thick of wood. So
You're going for a 45-degree angle?
Yeah,
from the center to the edge?
Well, the saw will only cut to a 45-degree angle,
Uh-huh.
so that's why I was cutting it off. But as you'll see in the rest of the video, that actually I'm cutting a 31-degree angle on the base when I do it with the router.
Okay. So, cool. So we finally got something delivered that was 1 month from the order day because of all the delays for Amazon. And this is deck lighting. So this is how we're going to light the staircase.
So each, we've got 30 of them. At least there was 30 in the pack. Hopefully we'll have less than 30 steps. That's what they look like. So that'll get inserted into the bay. I'll drill a hole in here, and then it'll meet up with a hole over here, and then this gets inserted. So it's just sticking out like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the key is to be able to get to it later on. So I have to figure out how big a hole. Cause if I had to replace it, I need to be able to pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're pretty long. This goes up from the one on the bottom, and then goes up to the next one. So might have to shorten these because they're really long.
Mm-hmm.
But they're made to go from, outside from one step to another, or one spot to another. So
Mm-hmm.
get some different connectors or something. So this is a jig I built so that I could start shaping the base. I calculated out a 31-degree angle based on the bottom of the top circular part to the base, the actual bottom of the base. And so that's why I built that contraption there. And so what that is, and I've seen this before in other videos where people use a jig use a router as a planer. And so I've done that, something similar in this setup. I just put it on an angle. So the router will guide in that track on a 31-degree angle. I'll be able to rotate the chunk of wood almost like it's in a lathe, and then run the router. I've done it two ways actually. I first started just keeping the router in the same place, and then I would rotate the piece around in a circle, just like I'm doing there, and then kind of spiral up, and then later on with another bit, I actually just moved it about a ½ inch, pushed up and down, and then moved another ½ inch, and that seemed to work out pretty good as well. So, but
Looks like it's rotating and spinning, but you're doing it manually here.
right, yeah, I'm pushing it with my hand.
And so it looks like it's carving like a little groove into around the top there.
Yeah, I'm pushing it up, and so it's taking out a bunch of. Now, unfortunately, with that routing bit I had, it only would go so far down, so I kind of ran out of
reach.
Yeah. So, but in this, I've already changed the bit now to my 2.5 inch long rabbiting bit, which I've used several times. And so now here I'm just going up and down, rotating it slightly, and that seemed to work out, give me a nice clean finish on the piece. I had to do this. I was only taking about ½ to 3/4 of an inch at a time. Ended up doing this about 3 or 4 rotations to get down to the appropriate height.
Okay. So it didn't take 3 or 4 rotations. That's not too bad, even though it looks like you're just going an inch at a time, or the width of your bit.
Yeah, pretty much the width or less. The bit, maybe half the bit, but it only took 15-20 minutes to go once around, so it wasn't too bad.
But you can definitely see the shape of it coming out now. Definitely more pronounced circle in the middle.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, we had to go down a good 1.25 inches of material to get rid of. One thing you can't see is I do have a mark on the top surface at the high point of that little jig to make sure that I didn't go too far. Otherwise, the router would have cut into the circle on the top.
So how much time total did it take to carve it out?
Maybe with building the jig, probably 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
So that wasn't too bad.
Not bad. If you don't have a lathe, not a bad.
Yeah, that came out pretty good for trying to make something that's nice and round. So, but I'm going to put some of those steel straps on the bottom and the top part of that, so it'll kind of give it some nice accent.
So yeah, I hope you really kind of enjoyed that. There's a couple more steps. Brian's going to put some custom steel banding here, and he's going to put some steel banding on the bottom, so it'll kind of match the rest of the spacers for the logs. But anyway, thanks guys for tuning in. We'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.